Hello, and welcome to Pile of Shame podcast. And welcome to the BJ Conan Modelling and Painting channel. I'd like to welcome Simon, who from Bite Size Wargaming, and Anthony, who Grana Priego. I probably spelt that. I probably pronounced that wrong. But welcome to the channel, guys. Nice to see you. Hope you've had a good week.
Yeah, have indeed. How about your good self?
Yeah, I've been. I've had a few days off, though. I've managed to paint a few figures, a few guardsmen. So that's good. How about you?
Well, excuse me, coughing just for effect there. Because technically I am COVID positive at the moment. But Friday of last week, after my wife had been ill with it for a few days, and my son was like just a day or two after her. And whilst my wife got better over the weekend and went back to work on Sunday, in fact, my son and I were still sort of ill over the weekend, and I was off work on Monday. But I've been working ever since. But I've still got that second line on that dastardly lateral flow test.
Oh no, that's not good.
Yeah, barring a slight tightness of my chest and I'm a fat and fit old git these days, but just something as innocuous as hanging the washing out on the line leaves me needing to sit down and gasp for breath. So hopefully that'll get better soon.
Hopefully.
Hobby-wise, though, I've done a few odds. Sorry to interrupt. Hobby-wise, I've been painting bits and pieces, but I'm about to furiously launching into some Napoleonics in advance of the game in a week or two's time.
Oh, ideal. Which army are you picking for the Napoleonics?
Napoleonics. Well, I've got some Brits on the go, but I'm just having a go at some of the Hanoverian allies and also some Prussian allies as well. It's been a bit of a rebasing exercise actually, because I brought I got some models in a trade from a friend of mine, and I shall put it all on my channel reasonably soon. But I've what's I going to do? Excuse the camera not being on, by the way. I'm also munching a Chinese takeaway at the same time. I'm sure
the dreaded Chinese takeaway.
The dreaded Chinese takeaway. Yes.
You did say that during the broadcast, didn't you?
Yeah, it bloody did too. That's the reason I stepped away from for a short while just now. But basically, yeah, and they were all sort of decently painted. These models that I got from a friend of mine, Miller from Miller's Miniatures. If you're watching or listening, Miller, well done, mate. Thank you very much. But I just wanted to rebase them so that they matched the ones I'd already done, and sort of touch up the painting here and there so that the red he had used matches the red I'd used on my red coats, etc. Just nothing major, no sort of just a few touch-ups really. So I'm working my way through it all. I'm about halfway through 2 4 battalion brigades in that regard.
That sounds like an interesting project. To sort of nice to revisit some bits and pieces now and then to sort of make it game ready.
Indeed, the best bit about it was had a little outing to remind myself of the rules. A friend of mine, Dan, had never played Black Powder before, and I have, but not for about 2 or 3 years at least. And we were in the careful down at our local games club, the Games Bunker in Weston-super-Mare. We were in the capable hands of a gentleman by the name of Don McHugh, who's he does a lot of scenario and rules writing for rapid fire and so on, amongst other things. And he sort of held our hands in a reminding fashion for me and a teach you something new fashion for Dan to get through this game of Black Powder. And it was very enjoyable. I was reminded how much I really like that game. I know some purists sneer at it a little, but I'm all in favour of dropping realism, air quotes there, for a fun game, really.
Yeah, I think Black Powder is quite a good fun game. I'd rather have a game that, I mean, one of the in a second we'll look at what's on the table tonight as such to discuss and have a conversation about. But I quite like games that you can sort of pick up and you can play within a very short time frame without having to sort of spend the whole day setting up and sort of getting to sort of quite late in the evening, and you probably have one turn. I appreciate that you can play Apocalypse for 40k and bits and pieces. It does take a long time, but something we'll probably have a bit of a yap about later. Anthony, what have you been up to, mate? What's been on the table?
Well, strangely enough, I've been working on more of my third core project again this week. I've basically finished I finished tidying up a first battalion because I basically, when I went back to this project, all my original third corps was all. I basically done it from all the first battalions, so I basically had all the first battalions done, but it was just a case of me tidying them up because obviously I think I finished them like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So some of the earlier divisions were like quite a little bit scruffy compared to my sort of painting style now. So every time I start like at the next regiment, I always go in and I just tidy up the first battalion. But the actual division that I'm in now, which is the last one, these were the last guys that I actually did, so they're in a lot better nick than the two previous. So I'm actually kicking them out pretty quick. I mean, I think the last one that I did towards the I suppose it was maybe over the weekend, last weekend. I basically finished tidying them up in about an hour. That was literally all. I think all I basically did was just recolor their backpacks. Because I use a green brown for the backpacks now, so I want the whole army to have all matching backpacks. So I basically just went in, repainted the backpacks, then went back over the strapping and stuff, and that was them done. And then on the end of those guys, I actually completed 3 more command figures that I needed to do. So I have actually got those there. So we've got a colonel here.
Okay, that's looking cool.
So basically, every regiment or every battalion is or I suppose it'd be actually every regiment. I've actually done like a separate colonel for them, and the person that's in command of the actual battalion is basically like the equivalent of the major. So it's like the chef de battalion. So you just get that sort of the way of including the actual battalion makeup, because battalions are commanded by the chef de battalion, and then the actual colonel was in charge of the entire regiment. So I've got the colonel as a separate figure for every regiment. It was something that I tried. I think I actually tried it first of all when I was doing my Imperial Guard, and I actually quite liked the idea of it, which is why I basically redid it this time. And then also I actually did a couple of brigade commanders as well. So we've got this chap here.
Nice. What miniature company are you using for your commanders, sir?
These particular two guys. Well, I think the colonel was a Calpe, not a Calpe, Elite. This guy's Elite.
Oh, I do. As I said to you on Facebook the other day, Anthony, I do love Elite miniatures. Oh, always have them.
I always get the battalion boxes, and you always get a mounted colonel in the battalion boxes.
Indeed.
And then, of course, the 2 brigade commanders are Perrys. So there's got both in shot. So there's the 2 brigade commanders.
Nice.
And they're both Perrys.
Perrys do some nice command models, actually.
Oh, they do, yeah. I think I've just about exhausted every command figure they do that I can possibly use, and quite a few of them have been given demotions. There's like corps commanders in charge of divisions and stuff like that, because we're just basically after different command figures. But yeah. So basically, with those guys done now, I've actually just started. I've already based them and got them ready for painting. The next battalion, and they're going to be Calpe. So they're all ready to go. I'll probably start them tomorrow.
Nice.
Do Calpe do the battalion packs like Elite and so on do?
Yes, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, Calpe don't do those, but I mean, they're still actually pretty good value, Calpe. A lot of people think they're quite expensive, but now Front Rank has actually topped the bill of being the most expensive metal battalions now. And Calpe and Elite are still very good prices still for metal battalions. I think they only went up like maybe £1.50 or something like that on certain types. I think it was like 50p per pack, something like that, or £1 a pack. So you can still get a battalion of Calpe for under £40. And Elite, they're even better value. I think that was just a little over £40, and you get like 36 miniatures. Where obviously the Calpe would be just a little bit over 24, so maybe like 26, something like that.
So a regiment that you'd purchased, how long do you think it would probably take you to build, or not to build exactly, but to base, undercoat, and to paint those figures?
The last one I did, which is actually in its box, I would have shown you, that took me 4 days.
4 days?
Yeah, that's because I'm quite motivated at the minute, but I reckon I can normally bang out a battalion in a week. Say sort of 6-7 days. That's probably a good average.
So here's the $1 million question then. So because Simon, you've sort of have Neapolitanic. I see we've got Leon on the chat who, if viewers who have not seen Leon's channel, go along and have a look at the Austrians, because there's a big Austrian army that Leon's invested a lot of time in.
Leon loves Austrians.
he does, and it's always been great to see the Austrian army increase. Pretty much every so often that it's Leon will go back to Austrians, which is great. But you think about how much time and effort there is invested into a Neapolitanic army. I know I've dabbled with French, and I've got quite a big brigade. But the thing is, I ended up just tired of painting blue and the jackets and the bits and pieces and all the white piping. So the question to you two guys is how do you stay motivated in staying with a Neapolitanic army or Neapolitanic project?
Good question. I personally, I always have at least 2, possibly even 3 projects on the go at once. So if I'm focusing on one thing, I can perhaps put it to one side and just try something else briefly for a palate cleanser before going back. So that would be my top tip number 1. That would be my top tip number 1. Otherwise, it's just a matter of you got to have a combination of stick and carrot, haven't you? Really, the carrot being the satisfaction of seeing something lovely painted in front of you, and the stick being well, I've got a game in 2 weeks' time, and I don't want to turn up with a horde of grey plastic or bare metal.
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean that's to have. I mean, I've got in front of me, I've got quite a few projects on the go. And being a Gemini, I can't sit still for 2 minutes anyway. Anthony, what keeps you motivated for you? Because you've been doing this third brigade for a long time.
Enough, I actually looked to see how long I've been doing this project, and I've literally been doing French for the last 6 months. Solid.
Surely it's longer. Surely it's longer than that. Surely it's longer than that.
No, it's 6 months. Because don't forget that I have already done all the first battalions. From my original. Because it's basically it's 30 battalions within the corps, and not including 4 batteries of artillery as well. So basically, like I was saying, I was basically tidying up all of the first battalions, and fair enough that the first couple of divisions had some real corkers that took a lot of time to actually tidy up and get going. Including some rather annoying total rebasings, which took absolutely ages. I remember there was one particular one that was made up out of it was on those horrid warlord bases, the ones that you get in the Waterloo starter set, with those with like the bobbles on the bottom.
I use them for my ancients though, and some of my medievals, so they have their place. But
the guys they're plastic guys, and they were literally fused to these things. I had to basically cut them all off using a Dremel.
Good Lord,
it took me like 3.5 hours just to get them off the bases.
See, that's commitment. That is hobbying commitment. That is.
These little fellas. Actually, this is. Hang on, let's get it under the light. They are these little fellas, isn't it?
That's the ones. Yeah, I always use MDF for all my bases. So this is all the 40mm bases that I've got. I've got through so many 40mm bases. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I got
I think I'll need let's think how many. I only need actually 6 more of these. No, 12 more. So I've just about got enough. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
Sure,
Yeah.
Well,
I've got a
these
load of
plastic
them.
drawers you see here, plastic drawers you see here on my desk, they've got various things, and there's like models and these ones over here. But here is my drawer of basing delights.
Yeah. I've got
There's
a little
bunch
basket of spare bases down. Well, it's a cardboard box.
bunch of 60 by 50s for medievals I've got coming up. All manner of things here.
So what keeps we sort of develop. So what keeps you motivated, Anthony, with this project? There must be something that's
Well,
that
I'm
just
one of
keeps
those
you going.
people that if I've started a big project, then I like to just keep going at it until I finished it. And I would say this is probably the first time I've actually probably 98% stuck to this project completely without doing anything else. And you know, it is sometimes a little bit taxing, but it's just nice to be able to, like, I always write the order of battle out before I start a project, and it's sort of like a motivating factor. So, like, if I just grab it here, yeah, so there we go. So, like, this is basically it's on 2 pages. So you got this is the first 2 divisions there. So every division is basically 2 brigades of 2 regiments, of which each have either 2 or 3 battalions. So, and there's basically 3 divisions. So, and then of course there's also a reserve artillery division, and also a cavalry division that was actually detached, and that was like the only element of 3rd Corps that was actually at Waterloo.
Okay.
And I've actually already got those done. So it's basically just pure 100% infantry, this project. So I've literally been doing, like, I think I had 13 battalions originally, and there's 30 in total. So I've basically been doing like French infantry for like roughly 6 months probably.
That's a big commitment, because, you know, when we sort of look around the various channels and see what people are doing. I mean, you've got British Legion's been doing some wonderful stuff with the dystopian ships and bits and pieces, and I was a little bit tempted, but I thought, no, pile of shame. Trying to reduce that rather than add to it. So yeah, and it's just interesting to see that the variety of projects that are going on. And if you was to look at my stream of videos, there's it just jumps all over the place, because I've got the I probably get involved in a project and then go, oh, shiny things, or oh, squirrel, and I'm off
said every gamer ever.
Well, that still happens to me, but I just continue on doing what I'm doing and just collect it all in the background. I've actually brought loads of stuff that's non-Napoleonic related, but I just I still stick to my guns and continue on. And and really, to tell you the truth, I've literally only got I've got to finish off tidying up this battalion that I've got on my table here, and all I have to do to them is basically just repaint their backpacks, and using my shinier gold, go over the officers' epaulets, and that's them done. So I'll probably finish those tomorrow in maybe like less than an hour. And then of course I'm also going to start the next battalion. And what I tend to do is I always do the grenadiers and the voltigeurs first. So it's like eight guys at once. And they'll probably take me probably, depending on, with the slightly better weather we've been having, probably 2 sessions. And that's probably about maybe 4 to 6 hours. And then I've got basically two groups of 6, which probably take about a session and a half, and then the 4 command at the very end.
I suppose persisting with the same thing for some time, like you've just been describing, Anthony, with your French infantry, it itself is its own reward in terms of you get in a bit of a groove, don't you, with the churning.
That's right, yeah. And plus the fact that I always try and change the battalions. I mean, I had a lot of like warlord guys to use, for instance, but I always make sure that my command groups are always different. And my drummers are always different, and my sergeants are always different. So it just adds that little bit of different flavour to them. And I'm also a big advocate of mixing companies figures as well. Loads of my battalions are made up of 4 or 5 different companies figures.
I know Nick's quite a fan of that on his with his medieval stuff.
It just makes it a little bit different. But at the end of the day, it's the motivation of finishing it that's basically keeping me going. And like I say, that sort of order of battle is a real big boost to your morale.
Well, there's your carrot.
Exactly.
Carrot, getting that all ticked off. It's interesting now. Wandering Cout in the chat. Has just raised that there's a book, which is a painting guide on Waterloo. And the color guide is based on actual uniforms, and it's by Paul Dawson and Keith Rocco. It's having that sort of knowledge about what resources. Again, was something we talked about 2 weeks ago, was having those resources available to gamers, because one of the things that I think is that if we're sort of talking about how getting introduced into wargaming, you've got the sort of the younger part of the community are sort of being introduced via 40k and Age of Sigmar, and
that's my go-to site, the old Saint Jean site.
Oh yeah, that thing. Yeah. I know
this is awesome. This is like so basically like again, you can. A lot of people just go to the various units, but I go to Third Corps via the actual order of battle, because there's actually orders of battle on here. If I just go back a couple of screens.
You're not a Nafziger disciple when it comes to orders of battle and things.
I mean, I have noticed slight differences between different sites' orders of battle in this actually. But when I come across something like that, I just take the one that feels natural. So here we go. So like basically, there's Third Corps, and you can basically click on each division, and it'll split it down into brigades, and then into the individual regiments, and then the individual battalions even. So like all the information's there.
Because Neopolionic gaming for someone that's just sort of thinks, I want to get involved in historical wargaming and sort of looks at Neopolionics, it must be pretty daunting. Because you've got so many variations in uniform, and I know there's various channels, and we're going back to Leon's Austrians again. Which, to be honest, is a labour of love, because that much white.
He loves it. He loves it.
I'm sure he does. But I sort of fancy doing French. I don't know why, but I did start some Brits, but I then went back to the French again. But for someone sort of new in the hobby, it's like I say, it must be very daunting to think,
definitely.
I'm going to do Neopolionics.
The volume of figures for Napoleonics is probably the biggest.
When I first started, I had a terror. My world was so small. I mean, I've always kind of been interested in military history anyway. But my proper experience of the Napoleonic era was probably pretty small in comparison to what you need to do an army. I know about the sort of the general history and stuff, and the equipment and all that sort of stuff, but the actual uniforms, and which, I mean, just the number of drummers' jackets that change within the 3 divisions is crazy. There's greens, there's blues, there's reds.
Or the braiding on sleeves of drummers' jackets.
Yeah, and just the actual colours of the jackets too. I mean, just in the 2 battalions of the 2 regiments I've done so far, one had a green jacket, and the next 2 have got blue jackets. And that's where that sort of St. John site comes in really handy, but I suppose the only trouble about that site is that it's literally only the 100 days. It's not really designed for anything earlier. which is probably its downfall for a lot of people that like doing the earlier sort of periods. Because there's so much stuff on the internet. I always say that, like, people always say, oh, just look on the internet, you'll find it easy, but you quite often find that there's so much on there that you just can't find what you're looking for, and there's so much stuff that's wrong as well. And in the early days when I was stuffing, I would I feel pray for it a lot. It's quite easy to get tricked by a wrongly, badly named photo or a badly named painting. But it's all a learning process. You've got to start somewhere, haven't you? And that's and I started literally with just the Waterloo starter set when it first came out, because originally I was saying to myself that if they ever bring out a starter set for Black Powder, I'd get into it. And then strangely enough, about 3 or 4 months later, they did. And that was my Napoleonic drug fix that's basically lasted for like 4 or 5 years now, of which I've basically been doing more or less full-time Napoleonics.
Having mentioned about time and stuff like that, the British Redcoats, both the standard Frenchman and his greatcoat and the British Redcoats that come in that set, that are the bog standard staple of the Warlord
no command.
Exactly. What was I going to say? Yeah, I think it wasn't Christmas Just Gone, the one before. NI Miniatures, our YouTube channel, run by a young fellow called Jay. He he did a thing where it was like a challenge for charity, raising money and so on. I had to paint a redcoat in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And actually, I thought, I did a couple of rehearsals, a couple of practices, and then I set my time. And actually, using mostly contrast paints, did a pretty reasonable job, if I say so myself. But they're relatively undemanding compared to, say, the dynamism and the animation of something like an Elite Miniatures model. They're relatively.
Yeah, I've actually got some. I've had some British Elite. When I did my Guards division, I used. I can't remember if it was 1 or possibly even 2. Battalions of Elite for those chaps.
I've just painted repainted rebased a battalion and a brigade and a half relatively recently. Video coming soon, folks. You'll see why I've been wanting to hang myself, but excuse the dog in the background. But yeah, no, they're relatively undemanding miniatures, but en masse they look all right.
Yeah, I've got some British here actually. Most of my because I have actually got a sizable British Army too. Yeah. But here's this was the last battalion of British I did.
Oh yeah.
These guys are the South Hampshire Regiment, so they're like my home regiment. But of course they weren't in Waterloo. They're actually over in India at the time. But so they're kind of a little bit of a fictional element to them. But these guys are front rank, I think.
Oh, nice.
They're all linked. They're all sort of charging, which is a little bit different, I suppose.
Yeah, so one of the things though with Neapolionics is the length of war game, I suppose, and picking the rule set. And we've talked about the box set that Warlord Warlord Games put out, which to be honest is a good set for a beginner to children to start.
You get simple models to put together and to paint. And,
models, absolutely.
Yeah.
So for you guys, what rule set do you like to use for your Neapolionics, and sort of how long is the average sort of game that you're involved in?
Well, I always play solo, so a game that might take a normal person an hour or two takes me about 6 or 7 hours. Because you're sort of doing everything yourself, and plus my mobility problems. But I generally use Black Powder, mainly because it's easy to remember and it's easy to play. I've also dabbled with Leon's rules actually, and I do actually really like those. But I think I need to get somebody to help me move my table out from against the wall, so I can actually get a full be able to get around the entire table before I actually attempt a solo game at that, because it's really annoying playing from end to end on a 6x4 table. You spend sort of like the first couple of hours just moving the troops up to get into contact because you've basically got 6 foot to get up.
You start rolling those blunders.
Yeah, exactly.
See, I've always thought that to be a Neapoleonic soldier, bearing in mind that you're going to be walking to a point where you've got cannon fire, you're going to be quite close with the enemy, and then it's who can reload fast, who can reload the fastest, in essence. And I know that the British riflemen could put quite a few musket rounds down, but is that I've not played too much Black Powder, if I'm honest, and what I have played has been.
I'm always a little dubious about the actual the shooting rules in Black Powder. That's actually one of the elements that I really like about Leon's rules. Actually, is in his rules, every base has got so many wounds. So say you had like a 2 battalions and 1 battalion fired on another, and they took like maybe, I don't know, 5 wounds, then you'd dish those wounds out and you'd actually lose a stand of troops. Because each stand has got 3 wounds basically. And then also firing's a lot more brutal because every base again gets so many dice rather than just 3 for a whole battalion like in Black Powder. You're actually rolling more dice, so you're actually doing more damage. And to me, that I often quite think that it's like it's an amalgamation. I think so. If you could come up with some sort of amalgamation of the two, so sort of like stick with Black Powder, but just bring in like Leon's combat rules or whatever, just to make the shooting a little bit more brutal. Because at the end of the day, it may not have been quite as brutal as chopping each other up with swords and stuff, but when you're talking sort of like muskets literally punching fist-sized holes in people, per literally hundreds of people firing at the same time, and you got sort of 600 or 700 people on each side firing at each other. It's it's pretty brutal. And to me, sort of like just three hits on a 3 dice for a battalion firing on another it seems a little bit low. But overall, as far as playing solo goes, it's Black Powder is a really good game to play solo.
Sorry, Simon. I was to say, in relation to Leon's rules, is that something that you? So if say that we had a viewer who was watching either live or watching this back over the next few days, and we've sort of talked about that. So if they went onto Leon's YouTube page, is that somewhere where they could possibly link?
Yeah, I think send him a put something in the comments of one of his videos, and I'm pretty sure he'll send the rules out.
Ideal.
But I mean, I got my copy like several years ago from him, but I really do like his rules. I think he was mentioning that he might well try and publish them at some point, which would be really cool. Yeah.
Sorry, Simon, I cut you off. So,
for me, the gaming's all about having a laugh. Not having a laugh. That makes me sound like a bloody comedian whose toy soldiers are accidental. What I'm all about having fun. I'm all about enjoying the visual spectacle, and for me, more dice takes away from that, as opposed to makes it more realistic. And I'm not, to each their own and so on. But I find that the X number of dice per battalion, it sufficient of a flavour is captured of the way combat works for me with Black Powder. But the combat aside, other elements of the game, like giving orders and that sort of thing, I find the mechanics of that it makes it, depending on how your dice go, obviously. I'll tell you a funny story about dice and how they go in a minute. But the game can flow reasonably well. I mean, I played a game that was on a very flat table with not a lot of scenery on it. So not Friday of last week, the week before. And like I said, my friend Dan hadn't played before, and I hadn't played for 2 or 3 years. And I think we had, what did we have per side? Pretty much even Stevens type of each side. It was like 2 brigades, each of 4 battalions per each side,
Yeah.
with a commander for each.
I mean, that's where Black Powder comes into its own, isn't it? Really, it's really designed for mass battles, isn't it? Yeah. It's designed for, like, you know, thousands of figures on the table, and to be able to play it at a speed where, you know, rolling 3 dice comes into its own.
Indeed,
comes into its own, rather than having to calculate dice, you know.
Yeah, as I was saying, like I said, we have about 2 brigades, each of 4 battalions per side, with a commander and a battery of artillery each, and also a brigade of cavalry with some horse artillery each. And yeah, that was, and we sort of manoeuvred around. There was a couple of little differences, like was it? I think one of his he was French, and he had lancers in his light cavalry, whereas I didn't. But then again, I think I had more artillery or something like that. Anyway, but yes, it was good fun, and the mechanics. I was reminded of just why I always used to bloody enjoy Black Powder, and it is very, you know, it was, I would quite put it near the top of my list of favorite games to play, simply because of the way the mechanics work. And yes, it's not for everybody in terms of realism and so on, but it captures a flavor. It makes for a fast-paced, fun game. And and it flows. I think that's the important thing.
And it's quite easy to just add little house rules as well to
exactly it. That, yes. I mean, all of those games from Warlord are all, with the exception of Bolt Action, which does have its definite differences, but things like Hail Caesar and for Ancients and Medievals and Black Powder, they all work broadly similar in terms of the order system and the maneuver system and the X number of dice per unit, stroke battalion, whatever, and so on. But and I think that makes for these, you know, fun, fast-paced games. And that they all flow. They're all very broadly similar.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've never actually played Hail Caesar, but I've always wanted to.
It's very similar.
I mean, quick games. I mean, if you think about some of the games that are on the market, I mean, there's a game that was I don't know if you've ever played it, called Frag.
Heard of it, not played it.
Really good fun. I was introduced to it at the Plymouth Association of Wargamers weekend, and I picked up a copy. It's like Doom on the tabletop. It's pretty mad. It's pretty mad. It's good fun. It's good fun. You know, you can play around in 15-20 minutes.
Oh, cool.
So it's one of those games you can just sort of throw on the table, play, and people like mates like Chris Ely and a few others from and Rob from Truro Gaming and Mike Rothery. They were the ones who they just sort of loved it, and it's a great game. But the other sort of side of things as well is I quite like Blood Bowl.
Always used to be my favourite Games Workshop game. I when the 3rd edition came, I'd sniffed around it. When it, like in the early mid 90s, I'd sniffed around Blood Bowl when I'd always been a historical gamer, and I sort of veered towards Games Workshop in a big way, because when I came home from the army and university and stuff, it was the high street presence in my small town. There wasn't the bricks and mortar war games shops on the street I could walk through the doors of, like there was when I was a student down in London, for example. And but yes, sniffed around Blood Bowl quite a bit. And when they brought the 3rd edition out, I played it to death, I think. And I think at one stage, when my mum got up one morning ready to go to work, and there I was, 7 o'clock in the morning, with the Blood Bowl board out on the kitchen table.
One with the Astra, the sort of polystyrene board.
No, that was the 2nd edition.
Second edition.
Yeah, and just to practice, because I had a game that afternoon after work. So there's me munching my slice of toast before heading off to work. I think it was, how old was I at the time? About 22, 23, still living at home with my mother. Shameful. And yeah, she was like, "Oh, for God's sake, is it that bloody game again?"
I must admit, I do enjoy playing it. I don't play quite as often as I'd like to, but
haven't played for a while.
I used to play Big Star when I was younger. When I was at my sort of, like, I suppose when I was in my sort of like mid-teens, my favorite Games Workshop games at that point were Blood Bowl, Necromunda, and Man of War.
The Man of War I liked
played
initially.
all of those
Too many
games, hardcore.
cardboard counters and chits and things for that for me.
I used to love it. I used to play them all solo. I used to have, I actually lost all my old Blood Bowl teams. I think they're hiding in my room somewhere. I'd love to come across them again. But I used to have my own. I used to play my own league. I think I had like 14 teams, and I had my own league, and I used to, play the league out, and then at the end of the season, I'd give out awards, so that like the most fatalities, the unluckiest player, the wooden spoon, all that sort of stuff.
When I went on my stag week in 1998, just before I got married, stag week. Yes, you heard that right.
I missed out. I had a day.
Yeah, clearly. And but the five of us that went, a friend of mine where he used to work had one of those big static caravans down just outside of Exmouth, and so we just camped out there for a week, being silly and getting drunk and stuff. And we each of us had to nominate a game to play during the daytime when we weren't out on the source in the evening. And like a couple of friends of mine, one friend of mine did Magic the Gathering, the cards. I did Blood Bowl, amongst other things, and that was my contribution to proceedings. And good fun, had by all.
I do actually have the new Blood Bowl, but I just haven't been able to produce the teams yet. I've only done a halfling team. That's all I've done.
One moment, folks. Just got to.
Oh,
because it's one of those. I've just sort of so Steve Harbour in the chat said that he's sort of interested, he likes Blood Bowl, and is looking to pick up the new version of Dungeon Bowl. There's also a comment from Wandering Celt as well, which is talking about sort of figures for Black Powder or from another Neapolitanic era or game. And thinking about the Prussians from War Games Atlantic. I don't know if you've had any experience of the Neapolitanics.
No, I haven't. I have had experience with War Games Atlantic. I've actually got like 3 boxes right in front of me here, but they're not. They're like here's one of them here. They're like the sci-fi ones.
Okay.
So I've got the Ixern Stormtroopers, the Einskern Panzerjäger, which are the female ones.
Yeah.
I've also got the cannon fodder box.
No, that's a good box.
It is. I'm waiting for the second one to come out because the second one's female, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this is the male one, and they're great. They're great. I use them for core space, or at least that's what I plan to use them for.
So I think. I was going to say, so I think the answer to Wandering Celt's question is that
yes, I think that that's great for troop building, but you don't get command in it. I believe it's all basically like a troop builder box. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I've even seen a sprue of them, but these particular ones I've got here are just about as many pieces as you could possibly imagine to stick a person together. I'd hope that the Prussians are the opposite of that, because otherwise it would be really annoying.
So I'm just going to quickly duck and dive in front. I've picked up the Les Gronards box.
Oh yes,
which I don't know if you can see.
I think I actually saw a post today that they're bringing out the British version of them.
Yeah, they are. So that's what I've been working on, and I'm going to do a video on the entire army once I finished it. But from my experience, to Wandering Celt, I found War Games Atlantic. They're good value. It's hard plastic. The cannon fodder.
It's one of the
are a good set.
Like Stormtroopers.
Yeah, they were originally from War Games. There was a company that made them in the first instance, but I think there
was. Yeah, well, I'm not sure.
They used to make some sort of Titan-sized things as well. Yeah, but I've had no issues with War Games Atlantic.
No.
I've picked up the Les Grognards box set, and I've also picked up the Les Grognards
heavy weapons.
Heavy weapons.
Yeah.
I've built and painted those. They're really good. So,
Gents, sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt, guys. A family urgent matter has just cropped up, so I'm going to have to step away totally rather than just turn my mic off for a little bit. I do apologise, gentlemen, for the last
That's
minute
fine,
nature
no
of this.
problem.
Basically, my son's hit his head playing rugby, and whilst he's perfectly compos mentis and everything, his coach quite rightly won't let him drive home.
That's
So
fair enough.
we've got to sort of try and sort some logistics out there or something. So
Well, I hope your son's okay, Simon, and look forward to catching up again with you soon.
okay, cheers, chaps. Bye.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Then there was two.
And then there was two, but there's people painting along, so that's not a problem. So the War Games Atlantic, I must admit, you've got the Eisenhorn and the which I think they've purchased from they probably bought the molds.
Yes, I heard they were done by another company. I can't remember which, but yeah, I mean they're great. They're great kits, but they are, especially these particular ones, are a lot of pieces. Obviously you get a certain amount of options, but they are, like I say, I think they're literally about as many parts as you could break the human body into.
I've got a feeling that the Prussians will be very similar to the
I think they're
the
probably
Grognards, which will be torso, 2 arms, head, backpack.
I mean, they might even be solidly cast. Perhaps just stick the heads on.
You could be right.
Because I'm pretty sure they're all in the same position. So, or more or less. I don't know. You need to perhaps go to a few sites that have them. Perhaps I'll show you a picture of the spray or something, or look it up on YouTube. That's probably the easiest.
Probably
way.
is.
I mean, I've heard nothing bad about them. It's just that you literally don't get command in them. But that's no biggie in my eyes, really.
Well, no, because you like you've done, Anthony. You can go along to different. You can go down to Perry's. You could go on to the Wall of Games.
Yeah.
You've got Calpay. You've got Elite Miniatures. You've got Front Rank. There are and I probably missed out.
So many companies. There's loads of companies. Yeah.
But
it just depends on what year you're doing them, and I think they're Waterloo, aren't they? So you got a massive choice. Yeah.
So the answer to that, I've lost the thread now. I think it was Wandering Calvert to ask the question, but so Steve Harbour's now saying about the Prussian infantry. I personally think that I would give them a spin, and then have a look at the command stands from other companies, because it's
Parry's or something. Yeah.
Because for getting troops on the ground, if you're thinking, I don't know how the Les Grognard set is, I think, 24 in a box, which for an Imperial Guard player is basically 2 squads of 10 plus 4 for a command. And what I did do is I took one of the banners from the Scions box set and converted it to be the Grognard's stand, and I didn't go for the blue. I went for the Vostroyan sort of red. But I mean they work. So I would really, if you're thinking, Steve, about having a go at the Prussians, War Games Atlantic probably won't do you any wrong. I also think they've got a very good set from Perry, and you've got a very good set from Wall of Games as well with Prussians. So I think you've got quite a good opportunity there to make a really good army. So Wandering Cow said that they've got a lovely command medal from Blucher from Prince August. That's interesting, because Prince August, from what I remember, it was always, I did have a go at it once, which was casting your own figures. You had the old the aluminium blocks. I don't know if you've ever seen that. And you heat it up.
I think I remember I had a family friend who used to mould his own. This is before I was really into anything else but sort of GW. But he used to mould his own, like really little. I think they were like maybe 25 mil.
25
really
mil,
small.
Absolutely.
But I always remember melting the lead and then pouring it into the little the mould.
I think that was my first introduction to Napoleonic Wargame, if I'm honest. Was the old Prince August molds. Steve's just posted saying that they're called Prussian Reserves. So I haven't seen the box, so it'd be quite interesting. I've got, for me, it's something that I probably wouldn't do a review on, but
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, I suppose the only thing I would just go have a look on YouTube, find somebody who's doing a review of the box, just to see how many parts they are. Because I mean, unless you really enjoy sticking plastic figures together, which I actually hate. In fact, I had a box. I've got like literally a practically untouched box of 1812 Parries just behind me there, and that was going to be one of my final before I started the division. My part of one of those 4 battalions that I had left to do, and basically using the elite miniatures that I had, and I also came across the spare ones from the previous box I had. And I've now managed to totally eradicate having to do any plastic figures for that final battalion, so that's now going to be completely metal. So that really chuffed me up.
I love plastic, if I'm honest, because I like to cut it all up. I mean, one of the things that I've got this Imperial Guard, not Games Workshop official. I'm using the Gronards. I'm using the War Games Atlantic.
Cannon fodder.
No, I've used those for Penal Legion.
Oh, those, yep.
The Raumjäger infantry. I'm gonna probably use some 3D printed heads on those.
They're meant to be airborne, aren't they, those guys?
Yeah, they're meant to be the old Fallschmiger.
That's right. Yeah,
but they're nice. They're a nice box. So, you know, I think the you know, I can cut bits and pieces off and do bit. One of the things on the back of that is I've sort of got back into my sci-fi, and I've today I've basically put together. Have you ever heard of the Troll Trader?
Yes. So
I bought some bits off the Troll Trader.
I went on a bit of a spending spree from the opposite company, TT Combat.
Oh, TT Combat.
Yeah, during I think it was during December, the early December. They had like I suppose it would be like getting rid of excess stock on like a lot of Warlord stuff, and one of the things was Cruel Seas. So okay. I basically picked up the entire range of Cruel Seas starter sets for like £25 each. And those, and they're like, I think they're like £70 to buy. So I literally got all of them. I've got like the US fleet, the Japanese fleet, the Italian fleet, the German fleet, the British fleet, and the Japanese fleet. And I got them all for like £26 a box.
So Cruel Seas, if I'm right, is that's World War II?
That's the coastal craft battles. So like torpedo boats and going up to sort of like corvettes, stuff like that. Yeah, so it's like not the battleships. I think that's Victory at Sea, isn't it? The one with the battleships and stuff. Okay. This one is the sort of the coastal craft. Like this is the US fleet box here.
Okay.
So this is it's kind of strange, this one. It's basically like it's almost as if it's just basically designed to be like a sort of a landing scenario, because you get a lot of like landing craft and stuff with it, which is really strange. Because you're almost sort of like landlocked into doing nothing but beach landings and stuff. But yeah, I mean, for the price I picked them up, it's amazing, and I literally am. It's on the back burner, obviously, because I've been doing Napoleonics for yonks now. But
in your private chain.
Cruel Seas is something that I definitely had made my mind up to do. And originally I was just going to get like the British and the German fleet and call it a day. But when you come across a deal like that, it's one of those things where you just think like, well, if I don't get these things now, I'll never ever find them for that same price. So it's right, do it, get them all.
I've got Blood Red Skies that I picked up for next to no money. The RAF one, which I don't think they don't think they make anymore, which is the Spitfires and Hurricanes. And for those people who haven't come across Blood Red Skies, it's a product by Warlord Games, and I think it's like 6mm fighter aircraft. That's got quite a good dynamic to play with.
I thought about getting the Midway version of that, actually. Is
Yeah,
it
I
like
looked at it. But,
what's the sort of I was always kind of wondering about whether it would be that good to play solo. That was the sort of thing that's kind of put me off of it a little bit. Because I did used to play X-Wing, the version 1 of X-Wing solo a lot. And I never had any trouble with that because obviously it's a similar sort of mechanic where you pre-plan your moves, don't you? Where I think in Blood Red Skies you use cards rather than like a dial. But it
yeah,
seems like it's perhaps a similar sort of movement style.
it's
But
a good game. It's quite a good game to play.
yeah,
There was a company in America that did resin B-17s.
Mhm.
So I picked up three B-17s with the idea that there could be a scenario-based
bomber
game
escort
where,
type thing.
Bomber Escort, where they've got the P-51 Mustangs, the old Red Tails,
Yeah.
sort of supporting the three B-17s, and then just have the opponent having the 109s or the ME-260,
190s.
yeah, 190s, the whole pretty much wherever they'd had, depending on the time frame of the war, to just have a go at the bombers and trying to sort of get them from one end of the table to the other without being shot down.
Yeah.
But again, that's something that is in my pile of shame to do.
Yeah.
So it's there are lots, I think, historical games out there ranging from the Napoleonic, the ancients. I mean, that's something I would like to get into. Is
Oh yeah,
ancients.
definitely.
I do really. There's something about having a Roman army. I think that at some point every gamer needs to do.
Yeah, I must admit, if I were to do ancients, I'd probably have to go for Romans as well. But I like the Romans that are in the sort of the classic Roman armor. Is it Republican Romans? The ones that when you think of a Roman soldier, with the classic segmented armor and the rectangle shield and the gladius or the pilum and the helmet that had the the helmet that ties around the bottom and it hasn't got that sort of ponytail thing. It's got like a
Door brush.
Yeah, it's like a brush, isn't it? Yeah, like a brush plume. Yeah, that's the sort of Roman that I prefer to do.
Bit like my hair at the moment. It's just gone like a brush.
Yeah,
Just as an aside, just quickly, Bite Size Wargaming, who had to unfortunately leave us because of a family emergency, it's just put into the chat that the boy's okay and someone's bringing him home, so everything's fine there. So if anybody was a bit concerned or a bit worried that with that, then and we wish him every recovery. Rugby's a game that I used to play it years and years ago, but it's one of those games where you do get hurt. So hopefully he'll be back on the rugby pitch again soon. And also, it's interesting that Simon's just posted to say that the Romans that we were talking about was early Imperial. Because I don't really, if I'm honest, I don't the latter Roman armies with the Arab sort of thing. I'm not that convinced with. I must admit, if I do go Romans, it will be old school, probably the Warlord Games ones, because
I've heard that the Warlord Games Romans are like quite oversized.
I've got a box. I think, if I'm honest, I've got the starter army, but
I'd be interested. I think if I was to get start Romans, I'd probably get like the Victrix army deal.
I haven't looked at that.
Yeah, I think it's like just a little over 100 quid, and you get like a good array of all the different Roman packs that they do. And it's pretty good value for money, I think. And the other thing that sort of appealed to me is that they also do it for the Celts as well. So you could theoretically buy a complete Celt army as well. If you're just a quick way of getting two armies real fast. Obviously, painting them up is another whole story, but
yeah, I painted. It's quite interesting. I painted up a Celt regiment, and I had it was the Warlord Games ones, and I painted them up to a decent standard, sort of quite above the old tabletop. And I posted a couple of pictures. This is going back a few years now, and someone messaged me and offered me silly money for the regiment or for the stand. Yeah, and and at the time I was like, do you know, I don't think I can justify not accepting that payment. So I sold them, and I don't regret it, but I think at some stage I might have to dabble back with ancients. But to be honest, there's a lot on the go at the moment, just to sort of to suddenly go, right, I want to drop this and get all very enthusiastic about ancients, and then get into that.
I find that I actually have trouble not doing Napoleonics. If I try and do like something else, then I always start craving Napoleonics. And it's like, even with doing this, like this third corps project, I've still got like a French and a British, a French cavalry division, French cavalry division and a British cavalry brigade still on the books to do. Even when I finish this third corps project.
And I will just say to anybody that hasn't popped along to Anthony's YouTube site, please do, because Anthony's invested a lot of time on this on his French brigades. The figures are lovely. There's also a lot of background that you provide, and I think if viewers haven't subscribed to your channel, I think that's something that they need to do, because it's a really good channel, mate. And I think it's something that if someone's getting into Napoleonics, especially the French, I think it could be a good starting point.
I got to admit, I am probably a little bit more biased towards the French.
Not much.
No, I mean, my French are going to way outnumber my British now.
At one point, I thought you were French, but
strange enough, it's half Spanish.
Half Spanish. It's interesting. Yeah. Steve's posted in the chat that he's quite always thought that ancients would work better in smaller scales. I think that could be.
I could see that. Yeah.
Quite an interesting concept of having 15 mil ancients, because you could pretty much have.
I do find 15 mil expensive though. I think 15 mil are. I mean, a lot of people say 15 mil. Oh, it's cheaper than 28s, but they're not that much cheaper than 28s if you look at them. And then with 15 mil, you tend to put more figures on a base. So, you're talking, unless I suppose if you stuck to the same sort of ratios, perhaps it might work out cheaper. But I think, I think that sort of even smaller would be more sort of appeal. I think 6 mil would be great for ancients. Because if you think of like 6 mils come on like rows, don't they? Is it like 10 men to a little stick? So you could have like rows of like, I don't know, you could have mobs of like 60 guys on a base.
Yeah.
A real sort of full up base of just a mob of like Celts. And then the Romans, you could have obviously, slightly less men, but they'd all be like lined up with their shields and stuff. And you could, and the profile of them's still fairly small. I mean, if you look at like, I think I remember Leon saying that even with the Epic, it's like Epic is a smaller scale. It's like 13.5 mil. But when you actually use their bases and you actually put out the battalion, it's actually just the same size as a 28 mil battalion. So theoretically, you're putting more figures on the table, but you're actually taking up exactly the same footprint as a battalion of 28s. So you're still, you're basically just going to be able to fit the same amount of troops on a 6x4 as you can with 28s.
It just looks like it
just looks more. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's interesting. Steve's just said that he's hoping that the next set that Warlord do will be Romans. And I think if that was,
it should be. I think they're going to work their way through all of them. I'm also kind of hoping that they're doing English Civil War at some point as well. I reckon that would be quite a good scale to do English Civil War. For pike and shot.
Romans,
and I can see them doing that. I could see them doing like all their starter games in Epic. You know, so
Yeah.
like for instance, you'll end up with like the Napoleonics. Obviously, the American Civil War was the first one, but I can just imagine it that they'll do an ancient one and they'll do the sort of pike and shot one.
See, that's something I've again, I think it always looks really nice on the table is the American Civil War with the grey and the blue uniforms of the North and South Army. Again, really, really nice. I also again historically, if you think back to our childhood, Anthony, we used to have the Sunday afternoon John Wayne movie, which you generally had Custer's Last Stand or something.
The Cavalry
Patty,
trilogy, wasn't it? Was it
yeah,
She Wore a Yellow Ribbon?
you wore a yellow ribbon, yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that'd be quite interesting to war game, like
I reckon it'd be. The old sort of the Indian wars and stuff. That would be
yeah,
quite interesting.
that'd be good.
But again,
That
it comes
that,
down to scale, doesn't it? It's like
oh
a
yeah,
lot of people use 15 mil, I think, for sort of doing that sort of period.
yeah. I mean, I've been. I've got. I luckily was fortunate enough to be able to buy a 3D printer. I got a Mars 2, and one of the things I did this week is I had a figure that was 28 mil, and I blew it up to probably I don't know, probably
54 or something like that.
yeah. I pretty much 100%. I did it to about 150%. So it's almost like the old Inquisitor figures.
Yeah.
And I was
They
really,
were they 42 mil, were they?
I don't know, 42, maybe 50 mil, but what I
Could be
did
50. Yeah, it could be 50.
I did it, and I was really quite pleased with it. And I was thinking, well, I've got the old Inquisitor book,
Mhm.
and
I've still got that actually. Strangely enough, I've still got the old Inquisitor rule book. And I did used to have a lot of figures as well, but I sold them, and when I think back at it now, it's like I almost wish I held out because I had like the Space Marine. Do you remember Artemis, the Space Marine?
Artemis,
That
yeah.
figure was worth a bunch of money, and I think I sold him for like. I think I still got like 40 or 50 pound for him, but theoretically I could have got a lot more for him.
I've got an Artemis somewhere that I stripped. I had a couple of other guys as well that because I quite they were nice figures to
I
sort of
love the
paint.
game. I just never got a chance to play it on my own. I played it in Games Workshop a couple of times, and I really fell in love with it. And I really liked the scale of the figures, but when it came to actually painting them up, I found that I really wasn't really good at painting them at the time. And that kind of put me off a little bit, which is why I had like about 6 or 7 figures that I never actually ended up painting in the end.
It'd be interesting if anybody in the that sort of watches this over the next few weeks or so, in the comments, put did you play Inquisitor? Have you considered? I mean, because you could do a war game, bolt action in 50 mil.
You could do, yeah.
Or use the old the old Airfix 132 figures, 132nd figures, and you could have like a rather than have a platoon of men, you could have, I don't know, 10 figures.
Perhaps it'd be better to do the sort of the squad one. What's it called? What's the sort of like the single squad version of bolt action called? Is it something like? I can't remember.
I don't know. That's a good question. If anybody,
there's a rule. There's a set of rules that they brought out, which is basically like it shrinks the game down to literally having a sort of a squad of infantry each. So you're talking about maybe sort of 10 or 12 figures, and it's a lot more. It's almost got like a sort of like a almost a sort of RPG feel to it, in the fact that
sounds quite good.
It goes down to each individual figure having a name, and obviously a purpose within that squad. So obviously the LMG gunner would be like an LMG gunner, and you got your riflemen, you got your sergeant, your corporals, etc.
Steve, sorry, Anthony. Steve just put in the comments that he thinks it's called Firefight.
That could be it. Yeah.
I think that would be quite an interesting game to play. I'll tell you what would be good. I quite like the idea of this is to have if you had I don't know a club night, everybody have an infantry model and then you sort of maybe draw a roll of dice, and whoever gets the highest dice roll, it becomes the commander, or the captain, or the lieutenant, or whatever of that particular force, and gives the orders.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of you, the rest of the squad, can either act they will act under the squad orders that have maybe a set objective, and then they have to try and meet that objective. But you will have individuals that, when they roll for their own personal stats, they may have maybe an individual that is almost like has a total disregard for orders. So when it comes to you get an order from the person in charge, you roll a dice, and if you get a dice roll that is below your stat, you can then go independently and do what you like.
Mm.
That, I think that could be quite good fun, if I'm honest.
Yep. I think there's another game of which I think like Seventh Son always goes on about it. I can't remember its name. I think, could it be called Operation Squad or something like that? It's actually really hard to try and track down. I mean, I've been trying to get hold of the book for like ages, and it just doesn't seem to be around. But that's kind of like, again, it's a little bit like that Rapid Fire, but again, it's like quite brutal. You're talking about sort of very, very small amounts of troops, and like really brutal, realistic type combat. And you can play a game in like under an hour. I think he did a video on it actually. So it's definitely worth checking out, because I think that set of rules looks really quite cool. But like I say, trying to find the actual rulebook itself is nigh impossible.
Because that would be a great game to have a few mates around and a few beers and just have.
Yeah. I think that's basically. I think that's basically the sort of idea behind it. It's sort of like a bear and pretzels type game that you can just get a squad together, and I think it covers all the nations as well. You don't need to buy like supplements or whatever, and you just get a squad together, and expect to take heavy casualties.
Yeah,
because I think like obviously it's got hand grenades as well. So like theoretically, some guy could lob a grenade into the middle of one of your squads and like completely wipe it out in like one turn.
So your 5 mates who turn up, say, so you got sort of 6, you got 3 aside, 2 of them, their sort of team gets wiped out quite quickly. They have to sit down, drink some beer, and just reset the game and start over. But that does sound quite a good concept, because you could do it for any genre. You could do it for the 95th Rifles.
Yeah, could do.
Which I think would be another good game. That's
why I actually picked up Silver Bayonet, because I like the idea of like the sort of personalities of your group. Have you had a Silver Bayonet?
No, I haven't actually.
It's basically like it's an Osprey game, done by the same guy who did Frostgrave.
Okay, Frostgrave, I know, and I like that game. That's a good
Gothic
game.
horror. It's Gothic horror mixed into the Napoleonic period, and you basically you have like obviously a 2-player game version. You can actually play it solo as well, but you can basically pick up, I think there's 5 nations that you can buy squads from North Star Games. I've actually got the French and the Spanish behind me back there.
And somewhere.
That's right, yeah, of course. And there's different different roles. So like you have your officer, and there's like cavalrymen, artillerists, supernatural investigators, doctors, grenadiers, riflemen, all different for every different nation. I mean, obviously there's the basics. So like everyone has infantrymen, everyone has officers, everyone has cavalrymen of some sort. But then basically the Gothic part of it is that you actually, when you're playing a mission, you basically search for clues, and it's like almost as if it's like they're like a crack squad that have been picked to go on these missions to find these relics, and coming across all these sort of mythical creatures like goblins and vampires and trolls and stuff like that. And it looks really good. I haven't actually even started paying the figures yet, but I've watched a few battle reports, and I think they've been doing like a series in War Games Illustrated as well that I've been sort of reading, and it seems like it's a really good fun game.
See, War Games Illustrated is one of those magazines that I do like to pick up. But you know, it's really interesting. Since the whole COVID pandemic, I've not been going into places like WH Smith's to pick it up.
Yeah.
I did have a subscription at one stage, which lapsed because I just didn't renew it. But again, that is a good magazine for sort of getting an idea of new rule sets and new figures that are coming out. So maybe I need to have another look at that. So yeah, it's good. Do you know, mate? We've been this is an hour and 15 minutes in, so we'll soon be thinking about wrapping up tonight's podcast of Pile of Shame. You know, it'd been sort of nice to catch up. And it's a shame that Simon had to leave us, you know, a little while ago to sort out his. Well, obviously he had to do it, but what I'm saying is it'd been nice if he to have a bit more time with Simon tonight. So yeah, I think next week it's going to be hosted by somebody else. So I've enjoyed hosting Pile of Shame tonight. It's been nice talking to you, Anthony. It's been nice to catch up. Like I said in the last time that we had the time before last, Anthony, we sort of exchanged messages through WhatsApp, through Messenger, and through YouTube, but not actually spoken face to face like this, which it's been really nice to sort of to chat and to sort of have that conversation. So thanks, Anthony, for coming on tonight on the channel. Thanks also, Simon, for coming on the channel also. And hopefully catch you soon on another show. So and I'd also like to thank those guys. Excuse me, those guys who've contributed. Steve, Wandering Cow, Leon. Thanks for Medieval. It's great to see the comments. And please, if you get 5 minutes and you're watching this, if you can subscribe to Anthony's channel, that would be great. He's got some really cracking figures. If you want the Austrians and to sort of to see how Leon built the Austrian army for Black Powder, again, pop along to Leon's channel. We also talked about the dystopian ships, which is by British Legion. So again, go along to his channel to see those. And you know, thanks for a good evening, and hope to see you all soon. So from BJ Kernan Modelling, bye for now. Take it easy.